8 themes, 8 days. Welcome to day 3 of the Remembrance journey. Today's theme is 8 days in an uncertain soul. And this speaks to my experience in college, where I felt like an uncertain soul, where I felt very lost and confused and in a daze as far as my path. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know, and I'm kind of nervous. I'm like doing this. But I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I changed my major so many times. And by default, I kind of dropped out of college because my true path kind of met me and found me and called to me. Unbeknownst to me, where I am today, I didn't even know that this would be my true path. But it is. But in college, I was using relationships and love and partying and drinking to, again, unbeknownst to me until after, to save me, to fix me, to help me. And if you relate to that message, you're going to relate to this. But I was just so unsure of who I was and what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. At that time, I was still under this spell of letting everybody else tell me who I am and tell me who to be, and not really choosing where I wanted to go, not really knowing where I wanted to go. I genuinely felt like an uncertain soul, because even the people I had around me, the 8 gays, including me, so 7, but even them, they all went to FSU and they all knew what they wanted to do and what they wanted to major in, and they were majoring in it and staying in the course, And for me, I went to TCC and FAMU, and so I didn't necessarily feel like when it came to school, when it came to college, I fit in. I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel like I could really relate to them because I felt so uncertain. I felt like I don't really know what I'm doing, but all of you guys go to university. Not only do you go to university, but you know what you want to do. And there's this unspoken energy around community college, which is if you go to community college, you're less than, right? Or maybe you're dumber, or maybe you're not as great, or, whatever the comparison can be. And I was feeling that. Even when we'd go out, it'd be like, oh, what school do you go to? You would either hear mostly FSU or you would hear FAMU. But when you would say TCC or TCC would come up, it would just kind of be like, oh, it wasn't really relatable. And so, even everybody had cars and their licenses, and I didn't get my license until 2021. So, it took me years. In hindsight, I see I was on my own timeline, but in the moment of comparison and trying to figure yourself out and not knowing and feeling very stuck and uncertain, you're just it feels like this pressure. It felt like this pressure. And I didn't feel like I could meet that pressure. And I was also in an abusive relationship during college as well. And so that took a toll on me. And I just felt really lost. I felt really lost and I didn't really fit in. Even if I had a group, I didn't really completely fit into that group because there was still this space between us. And when college would come up, when we would go out or people would want to talk about it, I wouldn't really want to talk about it because it's what am I going to say? I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just here, basically, I'm going to my classes, I'm doing what I have to do, but I'm not really in it. I don't really feel a passion for it. I don't really feel the drive for it. Nothing's really sticking. And then I took math. I had to take math one of the classes I had to take like 3 times before I passed it, but then I did. And I crossed out eventually all of my math classes, which was cool. I remember being so happy about that, like, yay! Because math is just like something I'm not good at, never have been good at. And it got to a point where I was like so depressed and sad and down, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wanted to drop out. I genuinely wanted to drop out. And I remember I called my mom and she was like, no, don't drop out, because like usually when people drop out, like they say they'll go back, but they never do. Like, just finish, you're almost finished, like you're almost there, just kind of pepping me up to keep going. And I didn't really want to, but I did, because I was like, well, what else am I gonna do, right? Where else am I gonna go? Like, what's the plan from there, In hindsight, that was divine timing. That was the divine plan at the time, unbeknownst to me. So I didn't drop out. But again, like I said, in the end, by default, COVID came. I moved back in with my mom, who didn't live in Tallahassee. FSU is in Tallahassee. All these schools I'm talking about is in Tallahassee. So by default, I had to just drop out, because there was no more credits I could take online, and I couldn't obviously go to school because I had to move back in with my mom, who did not live in Tallahassee. So life, again, just like did what I already knew in myself I needed to do and wanted to do, but just couldn't / didn't have the courage to do. And the 8 gays that I met, 8 themes, 8 days, 8 gays. This is actually a pretty cool story. So I went up to I went up to Tallahassee with a friend of mine who was dating another friend of mine back at home where we all lived. But we were gonna go to the same like area, Tallahassee. So we were like, okay, bet, when we get up here, like, we're gonna figure out like, where to meet new people. We're gonna meet new people, and then we'll just meet up and we'll figure out like, okay, like, let's just blend everything, like, da-da-da. So she's telling me throughout the day, like, she's finding people or meeting people or whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't really meet anyone, but she was, so I was like, okay, cool. And one night she calls me over and she's like, okay, bet, like, come over, like, everybody's here, like, da-da-da. And so I pull up, and it's 7 bitches sitting in a fucking circle, like, literally, like, it was a circle, like, everybody was just like sitting down, like. And I walked in and I was like, oh snap, like, she really found a group. Like, that's how you know it was destined too, because like, it was 7 gays, 7 queers now, but it was 7 queers. Well, actually, I think we always said 7 gays, but everybody was actually, there was nobody that was, it was always queers. But anyways, they were sitting in the circle, and I think that night we played Truth or Dare or Never Have I Ever. We played one of those games, got to know each other a bit. But it was interesting, because hindsight, it's like, that shit was destined. I was destined to meet them. We were destined to experience each other. We were destined to be in that group. We were destined to be there together in that time period. And so, we just kept hanging out. We kind of began bonding, and I think they bonded more, because even though my friend lived off of FSU's campus, they all went to FSU. So again, it's kind of that separation with me and them in a sense. But we all bonded, but they bonded more so, I think, because they all kind of knew what they were doing. They all went to FSU, so if anything, they could all always like meet up at her house, or some of them could meet at her house, and then some of them could meet on campus. But for me, I didn't live there or go to that campus, so I couldn't just do the same thing. But I would meet up with them. We would go to Denny's on FSU campus. If you're familiar, if you know, you know. We would just walk around campus. We would go to events. We would host parties at that friend's apartment, but also we hosted we hosted a party at another friend's apartment. We would host parties. We would go out together. We would drink together. Like, we would party together. It was actually really fun. It's like those videos where you see, like, where it's like, the Uber's here, but nobody's ready and everybody's running around and nobody's like, that's the type of vibes we were on. And like, we had this group chat where it was like, I think it was called Squad. We called ourselves Squad. And we would always be like, okay, who are we getting the alcohol from? Because none of us were technically old enough. So we were always like, who are we going to get the alcohol from? Like, who's going to get it? And my friend, whose apartment they would always go to normally, because everybody else lived on campus, she had a roommate that was older that would get it for us. So we always mostly used her. But then another friend of ours did have access. I think another person lived off campus too, but it was like right close to campus, so it wasn't like off campus, but it was off campus, if that makes sense. And yeah, we went to Orlando Pride together, and don't get me wrong, we would argue, things would happen, there would be a little bit of drama, but we also would bond. We would laugh together, go out together, talk together, get real with each other together. And so it was a really real bonding experience. We even had these bracelets that I had from this like big bag of gay things that I had, and it was these rainbow bracelets that everybody had, and we took a picture. If I can find it, I'll insert it, but it was just like where we all like kind of put our arms in and we took a picture. It was a real thing. And when we went to go hang out with people, like people knew us as squad, like they knew us as that group, like we had a name for ourselves. We were popular relatively. I'm not trying to be in my ego, but we were popular relatively, and people knew of us, and low-key they wanted to be a part of our group. I remember a mutual that we would see when we go out, she was like, how do I become part of this, like you guys are so cool, like da 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 da. And it wasn't really something you could become a part of, but we did end up inviting one person in, but then that kind of got messy and things just kind of started spiraling out of control from there, which I guess it was meant to be, but like technically I don't really include her because she wasn't like part of the original 8. And so we stopped talking back in 2020 when everything shifted in the world. That's when that friend group collapsed, because we were basically in a race war, and a lot of the people that were part of that group, they went to FSU. If you don't know, FLSU FSU is a is it PWI? I think it's PWI, predominantly white college. And so a lot of the people that were from that group, that were in that group, were white. And for me, they just didn't care enough for me. They weren't urgent enough for me. They weren't vocal enough for me. And we had gotten in a group chat and we all talked about it, and it blew up, and like I talked to some people separately, but at the end of the day, like we all just kind of fell out, and some people obviously kept their relationships where it applied, but we all kind of fell out. So we stopped being friends back in 2020 because of what was happening with George Floyd and like the race war, and like people not really speaking up and me not really feeling it. And yeah, we unfollowed each other off of Instagram. I just recently added somebody from that era of my life back on Instagram, not from that group, but back from that era. And all the other people, I don't talk to them. I do have one more person from that group on Instagram, on socials, but other than that, there is no one. 2020 changed everything for me as far as being an uncertain soul, but also within my friend group. And I didn't know that it was going to be the opportunity that it has ended up being, but it has ended up being an opportunity, a new opportunity. And I am grateful that I was able to experience that group and meet other groups through that group, and that we were able to travel together and have those experiences and bond as we did and talk about what we did, and party like we did, because we were wild, okay? But it is a closed chapter, that is part of my life, a significant part of my life, and maybe I'll get more into that in further videos. But for the 8 themes and 8 days, This is the 8 gays and an uncertain soul. I was the uncertain soul. I was part of a group of 8 gays, including me. And I'm grateful for that experience for myself, but also within that group. Even if we don't talk, even if we're all different now, even if things have changed, it's like, I'll never forget that. You know, at a point in time, I had so many videos. I wish I had them now. I wish I had more now, but I don't. But yeah, I'm grateful. Be grateful for your past, because it got you to where you are today. And I'll never forget it. And I'll always respect it. And I think it'll be something I share throughout my entire life, because it really is special. Even though it didn't end perfectly or pretty, or even though it wasn't all perfect and didn't all make sense, even my own journey, I ship it. I ship it.